I've never met a mother or a father who went to the hospital, picked up their baby, and said, well, let's name this baby Cliff, and let's see if we can't make them crazy as hell by the time they're 12. Let's see if we just can't rip their guts out. They don't intend to do that. When a child comes into the world, and you guys have forgotten this, imagine you're sitting here today, 30, 40, 50 years of age. You're still a hopeful expectation for the future. You forgot that. It was cultured out of you. But you came into the world as that hopeful expectation. Everybody does. Everybody does. Well, what's the benefit of having an X-ray? Well, in working with severe trauma, I discovered that how to find out who these people were before they lost their legs, before they lost their spinal cord was critical to my capacity to be able to treat them and make them better. It is called technically pre-morbid adjustment. Example, I had two 16-year-old boys. One climbs a telephone pole, grabs a hold of a live electrical wire and blows his legs off above the knee. I have another boy who was in a car accident. He's gone over an embankment. In the wintertime, he attempts to jump out of the car slices by a tree, closes the door on his legs, and cuts his legs off above the knee. Both 16 years old, both double amputees, both going through the same trauma. One of them is getting his GED and going on to college. The other one is suicidal and getting into drugs. What set the two people apart? Where they were before they lost their legs. I mean, a lot of people don't have a moral to their story. And what do I mean by a moral? A lesson, a meaning, a teaching. And then as soon as you get the moral, you then have a philosophy. And the philosophy for me is simple. If you got a moral to your story, pass it on. If you don't have a moral, then figure it out, because that's what you lack. And so here's what we've done instead. If you went into a theater to watch a film, a movie, and you were 35 minutes late for the movie, what would you feel as you're watching the movie? You would feel confused. As you get halfway through the movie, you would not understand fully what's happening, and when the ending would come, you wouldn't have a clue what just happened. So that is your life, the first 35 minutes of that movie. If you don't have that in context, if you don't have a sense of the meaning of that, then you're not going to understand the rest of your life. Wow. And what you will end up doing is externalizing and follow the guy up front. He seems to have some inside track on my life, but I don't. And so that's what happened in my own case. I mean, I had to sort out my own personal story before I could begin to help other people sort out theirs. And if you ask most people if they feel like their life has meaning, they will tell you no. It's not meaningful. Unless they're connected to this divine characteristic that we're talking about. There's some connection to God, grounded in some spiritual idea of God. And but what they're typically grounded in is what they think, or what they've been taught, or what they've been cultured into, conditioned to believe. And they really haven't challenged any of those beliefs. I mean, everybody in this interview has changed things that they believed 15, 20 years ago. You've changed and altered your beliefs a little bit, because you wouldn't have got here if you didn't. If you haven't done that kind of inventory on your own belief system, then you understand that you're stuck. I find it curious in the culture where we have all kinds of books out about near-death experiences. People will come back from those near-death experiences to write books about what they saw on the other side. My presentation on that, or my point on that, is that you don't have to have a near-death experience to see the light. You can actually see the light on this side of the equation if you wake up. And so that idea of enlightenment is really just that. Enlightenment really is just an ego that's been suffered awake. It's been my experience that Part of the problem with the culture, part of the problem with the profession is that we have inadvertently installed the ego as the human compass, when in actuality the compass for the human condition has always been the heart. And so the language I use for this, of course, is that you still possess these things, but why are they not functioning? Why are they not in your awareness? Where they are, I'll use a computer term, it's offline, or you're offline. We spend the bulk of our lives and most of our time trying to get the right job, the right relationship, the right location in the world. If I can just get everything out here in order, it will all fall together in here, when in actuality it's the other way around. My heart has never lied to me. Why should I listen to you? Now, who is you? Well, based upon the research, you are your ego. You are your personality. Your sense of I and me is who you identify yourself as. And so, said in a different way, my heart has never lied to me. Why should I listen to the ego? As we are told at birth, we are narcissistic. We do not need self-love. And we spend our whole lives trying to find it. And the reason that we don't is it is tied to suffering with oneself. So in this context, suffering with yourself is an act of self-love, self-care. It's huge. We're not taught how to suffer. A catharsis is a purging of the ego itself. And so I could say to you today, guys, you could stop suffering right now, today. You don't have to suffer anymore. I don't care what's going on in your life. I don't care what you're going through. You can stop suffering. How do I know this? Because you have got stored in the human psyche all the suffering you need. You don't need to create any more. I am giving you today an HPS. You have a human positioning system. And the idea here is that if you have a direct connection with the vertical, which means you're out of your ego, you're leading with your heart, your above observer is online, the human spirit's angst has been quieted, you are absolutely 100% here and guided.